Welcome to PlotLines, where I'll use my years of experience in real estate communications to uncover the real stories behind real estate. I'm Britni. Join me as I invite guests to break down the headlines in the real estate market. All right, welcome back to PlotLines, everyone. Today we have Danny Dulkin, the president of consulting and development for LIVunLtd. Danny, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, let's dive right in. Tell me a little bit about your background, what led you to your position at LIVunLtd.
Yeah, so I've been in the fitness industry for about 15 years. I started on the commercial side of the business, actually, on the operations side. And about 9 years ago, I had the opportunity to move to Chicago and move to the capital projects and development side of the business, which was really exciting for me with a company called Lifestart, eventually acquired by Arch Amenities Group, where I spent around 9 years doing build outs in commercial office, multifamily, all the vertical markets and spaces like that, and recently made the transition over to First Service to LIVunLtd, which is the wellness consulting arm of the business, and excited to continue to grow the business here.
Awesome. And for some of our viewers who might not be familiar, tell us a little bit about the clientele that you work with.
So we work with commercial real estate landlords, developers, property management groups across all of the markets, really. So whether it's commercial office, multifamily, hospitality, country club, private club, we even get into the commercial side a little bit because there's not a one size fits all solution when it comes to wellness, right? There's kind of custom strategies that we deploy into the
Sure.
different markets, and that enables us to work across various segments.
Okay. And I think that bodes well into the next question. So, the podcast is all about exploring headlines in the real estate space. And so, there's a ton of conversation about wellness amenities and how in demand they are across the real estate sectors. So, tell me a little bit about what you're seeing from where you sit and why the surge and demand for wellness amenities in these different real estate sectors?
So demand has been really supercharged since the pandemic, but even
Sure.
before that, into 2017, 2018, we are still seeing a lot of growth when it came to the square footage of the amenities, the positioning in the building that used to be, located, let's say, in the basement, and they started to move up to
Mhm.
the ground floor and then the fifth floor, and now
Yeah.
eventually the penthouse. Wellness is just so important in society. You think about all the advancements in technology and AI and work from home and all of this kind of high
Yeah.
frequency stress that exists. I think wellness is going to become more and more important. People are looking for opportunities to live and work where they can maintain a healthy lifestyle. They can not only work out, but recover and eat well and enjoy, biophilic spaces and things like that. It's more of a comprehensive approach to wellness now than it was just dropping a nice fitness center into a building. It's really a cohesive strategy that you have to drive, value and experience for tenants.
Yeah, tell me more about that. So again, we a lot of people think of like just traditional fitness centers, but it sounds like you guys are doing so much more than that. So tell me how you sort of define wellness and what does that mean? Is it spas? Is it like tell me more about what we're focused on here.
Well, you kind of have to meet people where they're at. And I think well-being means something different for everyone. And that's why over
Sure.
time it's gotten to be nutrition and spa and recovery and the mental wellness and the outdoor spaces, right? It can mean
Yeah.
different things to different people. Um, I think what's important is that the old mentality of developing these spaces was, okay, our architect is going to make this beautiful room, and then we'll contact a furniture or equipment supplier, and we'll be good to go. And that's not enough anymore. You really need to have a cohesive strategy across not only operations for the amenity, but also how you're developing it. And that means thinking
Yeah.
about the size of the space, the flooring you're going to use, the types of lockers, art, what kind of thermal amenities will you include, the blend of different types of equipment that you're going to be putting into the facility, not just looking to kind of fill a room with furniture. It has to be a strategy.
Yeah, makes sense. I know a lot of what you're focused on is getting in early with developers to make some of those decisions. So, What are some of those early conversations with your clients like? What are you helping them think about and advise as they think through how to incorporate wellness into their properties?
So in a perfect world, right, we get to work with them hand in hand from the very beginning,
Sure.
which enables us to dictate or at least opine on the size of the space, how it's going to be operated, what's the look and feel you're going for, who are the comps in the market that you're looking to compete against, and how
Okay.
we can put that together in a way that makes sense. But by doing it early, there's so many problems that you do solve. From a cost perspective, from a final product perspective, from an OpEx perspective, there's
Yeah.
different values that you unlock by getting in early. A lot of times, if we're in late or we come into projects for refreshes and things like that, and we hear about what they
Mhm.
liked and didn't like about the last project. There's so many little things that are missed when it comes to acoustics or the wayfinding experience in the facility, or even things like storage, or they miscalculated the amount of lockers they needed, or they
Okay.
overbuilt a group exercise studio
Mhm.
that they didn't have programming planned for. So they have this big giant
Mm.
room that's not being used, right? Those are all things that we want to think through very early in the process to make sure that we're maximizing the dollars that are being spent by developers.
Yeah, makes sense. Are there other sort of common expensive mistakes that you see people making?
Yeah, well, the two major ones. One is acoustics, especially in the vertical market. So
Yeah,
in a
it's
commercial
interesting.
space, acoustics is not as significant of an issue. But when you're putting a fitness center on the penthouse floor of a building that's selling $30 million condos, right? That's a really, really important issue. And there's different ways
So
to
you
think of
mean,
it.
right, like, I don't wanna hear someone running on a treadmill above me. Is that what we're
Exactly,
talking
you have
about?
weights dropping, the right
Yeah.
flooring hasn't been curated for the space, and we
Yeah.
take it a step further, so it might be a different conversation where we say, "Well, let's look for a higher tier of cardio equipment that produces less vibration," or let's think about air-powered or electromagnetic
Mm,
strength equipment that doesn't, include the weight drop, so instead of spending this half million, $1 million on the floor, we can invest into assets that the customers actually see and look at and get to enjoy, and it gives you a little bit more bang for your buck, right? So acoustics, I think, is a big one. And the other side is just
'kay.
OpEx, making sure that you're thinking about how towels are being delivered. Are you going with an outside towel service? Do you want us to help you put together, a
Mm,
laundry facility in-house so that your on-house team or in-house team can, facilitate the laundry service and save you a lot of money in the long term? So, um, there's all sorts of different pockets of strategy that need to be looked at, that can produce long-term pain if you don't get it right in the beginning.
sure. Yeah, that's really interesting. I guess, how else do you advise when you're talking to owners to think about sort of the ROI, right? So we see in headlines that, residents and tenants want these amenities. I mean, is there ever any resistance to putting them in, or how do you sort of help your clients overcome, that these are gonna help with things like lease up or retaining, tenants?
Yeah.
Walk me through some of those conversations.
Well, fortunately, the conversations I'm having, it sounds like developers and property managers are keen to understanding how important fitness and wellness are. I mean, the top
Okay, yeah.
developers in the world are building the most extravagant fitness centers and spas
Yeah.
in the market for a reason. I mean, I think that the market understands that. The shift is getting people out of that mindset of just build the room, fill it with equipment. We have a gym
Mhm,
now, versus actually
mhm.
creating an experience that's going to drive more utilization and impact people's day to day. So if you're just
Yeah,
focusing on fitness, for example, instead of recovery, you're missing out on this whole cohort of residents that might not use a gym. They enjoy working out by walking outside, or they go to their
sure.
local pickleball club, but they might still engage in your fitness amenity if you have things like massage chairs or hydro massage beds or hot cold loungers, because on their lunch break during work, they come down and they sit in the lounger for 10 minutes. Or when they wake up and they want to get themselves ready for the day, they might stop in the gym and get a quick 15-minute massage. There's a whole unlock of residents and tenants that I think have been neglected over the last 7 to 10 years by just focusing on fitness specifically and not the
Yeah,
whole wellness experience.
sure, yeah. I need to move into those buildings that have those. That sounds really great.
My pitch is always you remember when you were walking through the mall and you saw this $10,000 massage chair at the Shopper Image and you wish you could have one in your house? Well, the point
Yeah,
is we can put that in the facilities now in an affordable way and drive this kind of aspirational feeling for tenants as they tour and think about living or working in the space. or joining the club,
Yeah.
for example.
Sure. So it sounds like on residential, there's sort of this experiential mix, right? Not just on like strength, but recovery. Are you seeing that same sort of trend in like more commercial buildings or, what's sort of in demand there?
Yeah, the strategy is actually very similar. It's just a different
Okay.
KPI that you're working towards. So one is leasing velocity, retention, building value into rents and things like that. The other side is the same thing. You're looking to retain tenants,
Yeah.
lease up these spaces. But then there's the extra dynamic of wanting a CEO or someone who's doing real estate planning for a large company to understand the unlock when it comes to being able to hire employees in that market and attract employees to that company because they have the best amenities available to their staff, and it's not just the food or the commuter benefits, but they have this full wellness package available to the tenants. So it really just depends. In commercial real estate, on the office side, it's ultra competitive right now because there's
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of a flight to quality. There's a little bit more vacancy since the pandemic with hybrid
Mhm.
work and things like that. Now all of the office buildings are competing against multifamily in a way, and those
Sure.
co-working spaces where it's just that much more important for commercial real estate office developers to lean into amenities. You can see it with what JP Morgan did, right, in New York
Mhm.
or what I've seen happening in Chicago, 77 Wacker, the Merchandise Mart, these big, huge amenity projects that are typically tied to big anchor leases and tenants wanting to stay for a long time and invest their dollars there.
Yeah. So I know, everyone's always asking, like, what's the next big thing? Is there anything you're watching closely for 2026 that is like a surprising new amenity or even things that are falling out of favor? What's hot right now amongst your clients?
Well, the obvious one that everyone will kind of probably roll their eyes at is there's this shift from cardio to strength. We all know that that's continuing to
Okay.
persist, but you mix that together with some of the new electronic driven strength and things like that that are on the market. There's some AI programming and kind of
Mm-hmm.
prescriptive elements to the workouts that are included now. But again, it's even the software of even the software that we're using in certain environments where we're tracking kind of member utilization and visits, and we can follow up with members that maybe have not been participating or encourage them to participate in different programs. The digital side, I think when you look at prop tech and how that intermingles with the amenities and utilization,
Yeah.
that's going to continue to grow as well. And then the recovery and wellness, I think we're just starting to see we have the data. We know that it works. The unlock of engagement when you do include recovery and things like
Okay.
that, because that's a much bigger addressable market, I think, than just fitness specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, of course, tech, that makes sense. Do you still see though, perhaps in certain buildings or certain demographics, people desiring still some of that like in-person workout, like arranging for rooms where you can still do, I don't know, a Pilates class or a cycling class, perhaps with humans,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Not necessarily just the tech.
Yes.
What does that balance look like?
Yeah, the tech is just to actually aid us in our in-person programming. I should have been
Yeah.
more clear about that. We are
Mhm.
actually also managing, staffing, providing group exercise training, ad hoc
Okay.
personal training. That's still very important. It will continue to be. I think even in society in general, as we become more and more disconnected, I think that personal
Yeah.
touch is going to remain to be very, very important. But you have to do it in a smart way, and that's why we've created things like our events portal or ad hoc services that allow clients to kind of pick and choose what they want rather than have to have four full-time employees. Because again,
Mhm.
our thought, and that's another value of bringing us in early, is we're strategizing the opex. That's top of mind. All of us
Yeah.
on the design team here, especially on my team, not only do we have design backgrounds, but we have operational backgrounds. So as we're looking at the facilities and how we're building them and how they're being set up and the sizes of them and the adjacencies, we're very cognizant of the OpEx that might be required. We're not gonna go drop 8 spa rooms into treatment rooms into a facility that is wanting to have minimal staff, right? It's very important that we're
Yeah.
thinking about that in the planning process.
Awesome. And I know you mentioned in the beginning, so Live Unlimited is part of a broader ecosystem with First Service and also the Amenity Collective. tell our listeners a little bit more about the broader benefits of, being part of those groups.
Yeah, that's what gets me most excited. I mean, this is by far the most comprehensive fitness and wellness consulting and development platform that exists in the market. Not only
Okay.
can we handle every part of a facility for a developer, and that means
Mhm.
flooring, lockers, fitness equipment, recovery, audiovisual, millwork, planning, financing, operating. We can kind of handle the project end to end. Now we have
Okay.
10 or so pool companies in the business that can
Mhm.
design, build, and operate pools. We even build specialty fountains and things like that. And then the adjacent
Okay.
first service brands of California Closets and Century Fire, Pro Painters, and Paul Davis. It
Mhm.
really allows us to create a comprehensive development ecosystem for our clients that we can be that one stop shop and not only be a one stop shop from a convenience standpoint. I think a lot of times people look at those types of groups as well. Okay, we have this one-stop shop, but it's gonna be more expensive. In our case, it's actually not. We have these economies of scale because of our
Sure.
scale, and that allows us to provide also the best pricing and value to the customer. So really, it's a win-win.
Awesome. That's great. So I know we've already talked about sort of how you strategize for different property types, and in some ways, it sounds like it's actually very similar. But are there other considerations when looking at, say, multifamily versus like a more corporate environment that you're considering?
I would say it's by the project. It's not really by the specific market segment, right? Because you might
Yeah.
have ultra luxury high rise residential, or you could have a class A real estate developer that has very similar needs, right? Or you might have class B real estate or suburban versus
Hmm.
multifamily, garden style kind of box developers as well. So I think it's more driven off of the market, the tier of the asset, and really what the
Yeah.
developer is looking to accomplish in the market, rather than it being by vertical. And that's inclusive of hotels and country clubs and
Okay. Yep.
commercial spaces. It's really just dependent on the brand's positioning in the market.
Okay. Well, before I ask you sort of the standard outro question, is there any other trends you're watching closely in these sectors for 2026,
Yeah,
that you're
we're
considering?
always looking at finishes and things like that.
Okay.
The equipment isn't even really the main thought when you're putting together these facilities anymore, or the FF&E in general. It's really about the environment. We want to create these really, uh, wellness-driven experiential environments that include, the biophilia and the really creative wall murals and backlit mirrors, different types of flooring finishes and millwork. So the technology and the equipment side is great, but really we're trying to create um, these next level high-end facilities, but make them accessible to the buildings that aren't just the AAA, right? We want to figure out smart ways to provide great flooring and great lockers and great mirror solutions and great fans and lights and artwork solutions to create these amazing spaces, even for customers that don't have the multi-million dollar budgets. I think that's what's
Yeah, that's
exciting, is kind of
interesting.
democratizing it, right, for all of the asset
Yeah.
classes.
It
Yeah.
seems like generally a lot of your clientele is sort of that ultra luxury, but I mean, are even those clients like affordability has been such a topic, right? Do you feel like they're feeling the pinch as well?
Well, I would push back slightly and say that actually not all of my clients are ultra luxury.
Okay.
We do a lot of class A because that's just naturally where,
Yeah,
we
sure.
fit, but we do a ton of suburban stuff. We've done,
Okay.
1,500 square foot rooms at a hotel, in the
Okay.
suburbs or
Yeah.
something like that. Really, it's not wellness is not beholden to just that class, and I think that's another
Mhm.
value we provide, is we can make that accessible for all the different asset
Yeah.
classes, because we don't just sell the top of the line equipment. We have that, but we have access to other premium solutions and more budget-friendly solutions, and we can manipulate things around feature sets, and maybe you don't need the 25-inch screen. We could go with the 16-inch
Mhm.
screen, and we can figure out
Yeah.
a way to make it pencil for really anybody that wants to build a fitness center or wellness facility.
Awesome. Okay, great. All right, Danny. Well, I always ask my guests if they had the opportunity to sort of write their own headline in their space, what would it be? So if you could write a headline about wellness or amenities, what would that look like? What would an ideal headline be to you?
Alright, I would say, if it's a headline, it would say, "Wellness amenities um, no longer a rubber stamp. How about that?
Okay. Yeah, I like it.
So,
And I think that matches a lot of what we're seeing already, right? Just given the demand and that these are must-haves in the market.
yeah, yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right. Well, Danny, thanks so much for joining me today. I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you. Been an awesome conversation. Thank you.
All right.
This podcast is a production of Gregory. If you enjoyed our discussion, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.